I drive a Ferrari 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
This segment is called Life Advice. The email address is lifeadvicerr@gmail.com. Quick follow-up, throwing a few of these in there every now and then. We had some people that are much more educated on the car buying process than I think the three of us, but I think people were nice about it, by the way. They weren't like, you can have that happen every now and then where you say something, based on a topic, and then somebody's the expert, and it's just like, hey, you guys are fucking morons. And you're like, all right, take it easy. But a lot of people said, don't even go to the dealership the first time around. Email, don't go in. Research it, email. Just go in, and then almost with the idea of like you've negotiated it all, because it's just different, like people. I'll admit it, even times like when the sales guy's coming up to you back, like we don't even have that stuff anymore. You go into Circuit City and you're really close to getting a dual cassette deck, and you're just like, hey, you need any help? You're like, back off, man, back off. I remember we went with a buddy and he haggled. He was like, can we haggle? And the guy's like, well, what do you want to do? And he's like, you can take like $15 off of it. And the guy's like, yeah, I can take $15 off of it. Like, and he's like, all right. He's like, dude, can you do something with me here? Work with me a bit.
Like that Always Sunny episode at the market.
Like, you need $15 off of this to feel like you won? Cool, man.
Imagine, you probably just felt bad for you. He's like, yeah, man, I'll take that on my own pay account. Like, geez, man, $15. Christ. Have some respect for yourself.
It was exactly that. It's even worse than I'm explaining. I think we were on the South Shore. It was my roommate from college, his older brother, who's a character and a half. And he just was like, he wasn't paying full price. He wasn't going to pay the sticker price. And it wasn't even something you normally would haggle over. But back then at like Circuit City, you might be able to haggle a little bit, the concept of going to Best Buy now and being like, what's the best price on this Xbox? Be like, the one that's underneath it is the
Hey,
price.
Can I get $5 off Baldur's Gate 3? The guy's like, the price is the price, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Also, I've been a Best Buy Rewards member for 8 years. I bought a TV here last year, and I somehow only have $5 in rewards. Get it together. This is not a system that actually rewards you.
Uh-oh.
Don't like it.
Oh,
yeah. I think they were a sponsor at one point. Take it easy.
I'm going to put a stop to that right now. I know it's all about revenues, but they are really, I just feel like I've been just getting punched by them for the last 8 years. I don't know why I keep going back. They're just not a good alternative.
What are you talking about? The rewards? You bought a TV years ago, and you think you're supposed to get rewards every year?
I make all my big electronic purchases through there. I mean, I bought like a TV. Like I bought a TV that kind of put me in debt, for a little. I'm completely out of that debt.
Healthy
good debt. Good debt. I think it's actually the resale. I mean, I don't think it depreciates as fast as a car or anything, but like I bought a desktop computer, a nice one to play my Age of Empires 3 on it. Got a nice monitor, 2 keyboards, all my electronic needs. Got my smart bulbs from there, and it's just like I never get the rewards. And I've spent thousands of dollars, and it's never any more than like, here's $5. It's just, I don't know. I think there should be. These are where you go to make your big purchases, and there's just nothing. There's just nothing. I get more of a reward from fucking buying Mac Jones t-shirt jerseys and Jack Jones fucking lower tier jerseys than I do from buying my electronics. I just think we should figure this out, Best Buy.
Wow.
I don't even know what to do. Let's just start reading emails. There's nothing. Right. There's no follow-up there.
All right,
okay. I hugged my boss the first time we met. This is such a great title. As soon as I saw Kyle said that one, I was like, yeah, like that's the perfect title to get us to read it. Hey, boys, longtime listener. Let's just jump right into this. I hugged my boss for the first time we met on Wednesday. I write this to you from the couch as I prepare for my first conference as a new hire tomorrow. Normally, an event like this is something I look forward to, but due to my unforeseen gesture of introduction, I have feelings of dread and unknown. I just moved to Texas from Philadelphia earlier this month. My boss serves as the head of communication department of my medium-sized privately owned company. I do not interact with her in person too often as she is in between Texas and the Rocky Mountains. We meet weekly on Zoom, and she was the person who hired me. In fact, I was told when I received my offer letter that this woman, let's call her Sally, was the reason I got hired. She trumped everyone in the division and said I was her favorite candidate. I only include these details because this is not some gigantic media conglomerate where I can avoid this person for the rest of my life. Now to the details of the hug. I was headed downstairs in the elevator lobby when Sally got off at my floor with 3 other department heads, all people I've met over Zoom. Sally exclaimed, well, he uses his real name here. Let's just call him Tyler. So nice to see you. Doug. Doug's been getting worn out.
Can't double up on Doug.
Doug's usage rate is like Westbrook 17. So, whoop, I just said his name.
Ah.
You can cut that out, Mike.
There you go.
Tyler. So again, so nice to meet you. With one arm up and extended, I did not initially see if it was a handshake or a hugging gesture as I was caught off guard by someone in the building recognizing me as I'm so new. Once I realized this person knew me, my eyes scanned the lobby to see the other familiar faces, and I attempted to quickly read the room to establish the vibe. I reached out my hand to shake, but was caught cross-body as I extended my left instead of my right. Her left was full with a Starbucks cup, and when we both realized the handshake would be awkward, I leaned down with one arm and hugged her, to which she seemingly reciprocated.
Okay.
I don't even remember the next 45 seconds of the interaction because all I could think of was, yeah, holy shit, why did you just hug Sally? I think of myself as someone who almost always reacts well in social situations, or easy conversationalist, and the guy who makes good first impressions. Even when meeting mutual friends, unless they extend the gesture, I tend not to hug and attempt to overstep boundaries. Please, fellas, what is the next move? Do I make a joke at the conference, ask a coworker about Sally's temperament and overall friendliness? Do I keenly watch to see how she greets others? Any tips to cool the hot flashes of embarrassment I've been feeling, or personal stories of your own to make me feel better? My parents and siblings have been laughing for the past 24 hours with little advice to give. You're probably fine. Right? Yeah. Like 99% chance you're fine. You're overthinking it. You're a little weirded out. I mean, look, ever since COVID, I mean, once the potato really started taking over, the potato handshake thing, like I'm still fucking it up. I've been fucking that up for a decade, but COVID really added another layer of like, what's the proper greeting? I mean, at least it's a male-female deal here, which I know some would say, okay, maybe that's the thing you do have to worry about. But, you know, being a guy, and like sometimes it's like a really good friend you haven't seen in a while, but you're like, is he a hugger? Do I hug this guy? Like, I'll get in there and give you a good one. You know, I don't care. I'm not going to worry about it. I feel great about myself. But this is a little different. She was excited. The hand thing is in your favor. I don't know why you went left hand. Your advanced scouting obviously was pretty bad on all of this. But as far as addressing it, it feels like you would be addressing it because clearly, like whatever conference you're presenting at or whatever, when your time is, it's your turn to go up there and talk to everybody. Like, yeah, you could do a joke, but then if you say like, hey, I'm going to try not to hug everybody here, nobody's going to get the joke except for maybe Sally. But what you're really doing is you're kind of talking about it to make yourself feel better when she has likely turned the page.
Yep.
So to then remind everybody of the awkwardness might actually be worse than just the awkwardness that you felt. Because right now it's just basically your awkwardness. And I know what you're trying to do. You're like, hey, how do I, like, if I address it publicly with other people, does it make everything better? And really, you're only talking about getting yourself through it. And you're already going to get through this and it's not going to matter. She thinks you're awesome, right? She hired you. So maybe she just thinks, hey, this guy's from Philly. People from Philly are incredibly
brotherly love,
friendly. They're the friendliest guys you're ever going to meet. And I think you're fine. I wouldn't overthink it. And I really wouldn't even bring it up again.
Yeah, I think you know, people can like sniff that like genuineness on you if you're like for something like that. If you're just like, oh, holy shit, there you are. Like, I think that could be. It's not like you like smell like weed or something, right? It's like this is just a normal like, oh, this is the person that hired me. You guys have your own thing. You recognize it was in passing. I think that's totally cool. And also, I think for dudes, we just need to work on this. Like when I was in high school, it was pretty much dudes get daps, girls get hugs. That's what it was. Yeah. In college, you kind of caught in that in-between thing. Dude introduces you to somebody and like, or you meet two people at the same time and there's a guy and a girl and you dap the dude up and then you're like, I guess I'm going to hug this guy's girlfriend. Like, I don't know. So then you sort of, as you grow up, you learn like, you know, handshakes or or like hellos without touching or something, but it's ingrained in you, at least in us. In high school, it was like girls get hugs, dudes get daps. So maybe if we just get the youth on the fast track to normal hellos instead of every girl gets a hug and every dude gets a, so I don't know. That's just a thought I had.
I'm trying to remember, because I think it also depends on like the girl or the woman in this case. Like what is her, is she more business like? Is she a little bit like very buttoned up, or is it kind of a loose and casual thing? Because the first time I think I went out to LA, I'm trying to remember, and the first time I ever met like Mallory Rubin and Juliet Littman, who are obviously, two of our bigger people here at the Ringer, I think I gave them hugs, and I don't think it was weird at all.
Juliet after COVID.
Yeah, like
I definitely hugged Elizabeth the first time I met her, our ops person, and she's definitely like my boss when I'm in Oxford or something, right? Like she's definitely my boss. So yeah,
I didn't think that was, I didn't second guess it for a second, and so I don't know, maybe if she's wearing like a full sort of like, Hillary Clinton like pantsuit situation, she's like one of those, maybe that might, you might want to be a little more formal in that situation. But like there is a weird, we have to acknowledge that there is like a weird, like there is a blur, like it's a little bit blurry, it's a little bit gray, it's kind of a gray area of like when you formally meet a woman in a professional environment. Do you do the hug? Do you do the hand? Because the handshake seems weird too. It seems too formal. Even for guys, sometimes I feel like it's a little bit too formal. So I will say to this guy's credit, like I don't think you totally screwed it up. It is like a little bit of a blurred line, and it doesn't seem like she was that offended or weirded out by it. So I definitely wouldn't bring it up again. And it's one of those things where, yeah, I get you're gonna be like laying in bed and she's gonna like hit you, and you're gonna be so ashamed. Like years from now, it's gonna be one of those things that kind of repeats over the lifetime. But it kind of doesn't seem like you screwed up that badly. So I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something, but I think you're actually fine.
Yeah, because you're her guy, right? That's the other thing. Like, I don't know how this guy found out that like she's the one that pushed and loved him so much. I don't know if someone else told him that or if she said that to him. But like, if she knows that, like, if she knows that that she got you in, like, to the extent that I know that was the crazy sentence I've ever said, but like, if you guys understand that she like was the one that went to bat for you, and this is the first time you've probably spent a good amount of time on Zooms together and emails, and you finally, this is the in-person thing. I actually think a hug could be called for. Might be a little strange that she just got out of an elevator with like surrounded by other executives. Probably a better place and time, but sometimes you don't get to pick this shit. So I think it's totally fine.
I forgot Juliet's name the first two times I met her, and then she told me. So it was the opposite of a hug.
No hugs for Russillo.
Rough start. All right, good. Well,
tough.
Bad start, great middle. All right. Public speaking. 29, 6'1", 190 player comp. Sydney King, Steve Blake. Very good. Very good. I recently made a brief work presentation in front of 50 to 60 people and came away disappointed with myself at the end. I was confident in what I was going to say, and the thought of being nervous didn't even cross my mind at any point before it was my time to speak. However, as soon as the host of the meeting passed me the mic, my hand began noticeably shaking, which threw me off entirely, as it was on the forefront of my mind from start to finish of my short segment. Ultimately, I got through my talking points and communicated what needed to be said, but your boy was not exuding supreme confidence. This frustrates me because I'm confident in what I do. I communicate effectively when leading my staff or in any other context with people in positions of power, and I'm a mellow person who takes pride in staying calm and adapting in stressful situations. I had zero reason to be nervous. I was actually looking forward to sharing some positive information with the group, but this random adrenaline rush just took over and was embarrassing. I was talking in front of a significant number of folks I hadn't met, but there was also plenty of others in attendance that I interact with regularly and have built rapport with. Obviously, your career centers around publicly speaking on a daily basis in a different context. Have you thought, and you have enough reps in front of large crowds at this point, but I'm wondering what tips you, Kyle, Steve, may have for overcoming the issue. Yeah, that sucks because you were like ready to go, and then something happened that you weren't even expecting. Like, it's one thing to expect to be nervous and then actually be nervous, but then all of a sudden you're like, feel like you're sick up there or something. I don't know. You guys want to go first on this one?
I think it was I think it's a trap game. I think this was just a trap game. Like, you were good, and everyone, like, I don't know why UConn lost to Providence or something. It's just like, I think it was a trap game. And like, this happened to me recently. It was over Zoom. Like, we've been over this. I get so nervous before I go up on stage, but I know I'm going to be nervous when we go to live shows. You know, I told you sometimes I have to take a bunch of dumps before I just can't stop it. And like, I'm like
You're a nervous
pacing
tour.
around. I'm not trying to be around you guys. Like you're like, where is he going now? I'm just like walking. That's the case. I get up there and I'm fine. But we had this Zoom thing where we're like, you know, some of the producers were taking some of the newer hires just to be like, here's how we do stuff faster. And I had all my points down. I'm ready. Like, I enjoy this stuff. Like, I enjoy doing it like quickly. And I feel like I found some like good tips to share. And I'm on a Zoom call with like 6 people and I'm looking at my list. And all of a sudden I feel like I'm getting like warm. I could see my face turning red. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I didn't expect to be nervous at all for that. So I think that was just a trap game. I've done another one since and I was fine, but it just snuck up on me. I don't know. I was supremely confident going in, and I'm not worried that that'll happen again, unless of course we're going up on stage somewhere, and then I'll be terrified, and then it'll be fine once I go out there.
I'm a very hit or miss public speaker too. Like I don't sometimes if I'm comfortable and it's the right setting and I'm I just woke up in a good mood that day, like I could be all right. And then there are other days where even like in Zoom meetings, like sometimes I'm just like more engaging in Zoom meetings, and other times I'm just kind of like, why did you say that? You sound like an idiot. And I'm like doing basically and I'm doing what our last emailer is doing and just like thinking about that 2 days from now being like, what the hell was I talk? Like, why did I make that joke? So yeah, I honestly, I'm kind of the wrong person to ask because it's very different. Whenever people ask, it's very different doing the pod over Zoom when there's like 4 of us in the Zoom. And as Kyle said, doing like a live show, like it's not just because we talk a lot doesn't mean you could be a good public speaker. And I don't think I am. So I don't know that I have a ton of like advice for you, but I would say I kind of agree with Kyle. It seems like it might have just been a blip. Like I wouldn't beat yourself up over it.
The only thing, and first of all, you're right. What we do is not public speaking. Okay. I'm looking at a Zoom with 2 guys I've known a while, and you always kind of forget that you don't forget there's an audience, but you don't do the show thinking about, oh, there's all these people listening to it. And it was the same thing.
Go ahead and edit that out too.
Yeah, right.
We could totally
on top of everything
anytime.
else. So, as far as being live on radio for all those years, it got to the point where I wasn't even thinking about it. I wasn't thinking about people being in their car. I mean, I know you're supposed to, and clearly you're aware of it, but you're just not even thinking. There's probably been a couple TV shows where I was a little bit more like, all right, let's go. I wasn't nervous to go out there and do first take. Whenever I was doing first take or any of the NBA stuff they'd let me do towards the end, it wasn't being nervous. It was just wanting to prove all these people wrong that thought I sucked on TV, So I was just like, that would be the only thing that would be a negative thing that I would be thinking about. But as far as the public part of it, the first live show that we did in Denver, I was determined to do some kind of monologue for however many minutes it went. Maybe it was 7 minutes. And I did feel it a little bit, because that's not something I would normally do, where you're going to go, okay, you think you're going to do a sports monologue with a couple little jokes in there and then, get the crowd in there. And the best feeling was the audience was drinking and it was later at night. And I came out and I knew, like, within the first 10 seconds, I was like, I'm good. Like, I got it. The New York one was a little tougher. It was a bigger room.
Rowdy.
And I wasn't trying to like do stand up or anything. I was just trying to like tell a story and, talk about the city and ultimately coming around and kind of like loving New York City. The Utah one went really well, but those are definitely moments for me. And I think the reason I do them because I want to feel that, like I want to feel a little uncomfortable. I want to see if I can pull it off. But I would say this to anybody that has to do that, like in obviously the workspace, you're on a stage hosting a show. Know how you're going to finish. Literally everything I do, whether it's the monologue on a podcast, an interview, or the point that I was making on the radio shows, or when they throw it to you when you're sitting at a desk, whether it was first take or some of the NBA stuff, have an ending that you're working towards. And if you know where you're going to end, the journey there is like way more comfortable. Because again, there's plenty of times I've kind of like had it and I go, I don't really know where the hell this is going. And those are like the best, the highest level guys. That's why I always think like Tirico is so good at his job. Can the rare chance he's ever off or sort of making a mistake, he corrects it on the fly where almost no one noticed that he may have said something out of order and then fixes it in this way that just nobody could even ever tell. So it probably holds up the same way for the public speaking part of it. You're just going to be look, some people just can't handle it. I don't know how to talk to that person, right? I don't have tips for you. Just like my greatest fear is public speaking, and that's the case for a lot of people. And you know, I don't know what the
Might as well
tricks
be
would be to
spiders,
get
dude.
through that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, right. But I always feel way better about anything I'm doing when I know what the end is. I think writing is the same deal. Like, okay, you're gonna write all this stuff, but like, how does this end? Like, what's the end? And it's probably the most important thing. I remind myself of everything that I do, and I think it would relate some way to some of the public speaking stuff. If you're confident about how you're going to finish, then you're just going to be more confident on the way there.
I think that's great advice, dude.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds basic too, but just like be prepared too. You know, the more whenever I have to talk or I'm doing something like that, like if I wing it, I'm usually terrible at it, even if I know what I'm talking about. And if I actually have just some sort of like an outline or anything, like I'm definitely better, even if I'm still nervous. And so that you could always kind of fall back on that. So be prepared, I guess is. I mean, it sounds stupid and basic, but it actually is true.
No, but anytime I have a bad show or I have an interview that I'm like, that just wasn't that good, I'll just go back to like, did you prepare enough? And I always feel like I prepare enough, but then it'll be like, well, did you prepare the right way, or did you have a theory in your head and then you were so determined to prove the theory that you didn't really prove the theory as hard as you. And then once you heard yourself actually talk it out, you know, like that didn't really hit the way you wanted. You know, that's why I just love those John Oliver monologues so much, because you know, you just put a ton of work into it, but whether you agree or disagree, the payoff is always there. And look, they're putting a ton of production into those. I don't think it's realistic to do a podcast 3 days a week and do a John Oliver level monologue. I just don't think you could do it. I think that would be the goal if anybody could ever figure out how to do it up and do it and pull it off in sports. But you know, I don't know. They've tried a bunch of those versions of that show of sports, and it just doesn't ever really seem to click the same way. Okay, so maybe that was good advice. Let's give some bad advice. Female listener, growing demographic, she tells us.
Mm-hmm.
Pregnant friend group advice.
Are you sure you're a listener? Okay. You're asking us for that.
Live in a big city, basketball comp, Leandro Barbosa. Wow. Too bad she's off the market, gang.
Damn, yeah.
I'm in my 30s, and most of my friend group is pregnant. I, too, am now pregnant. I'm newest to the pregnancy game, and I'm finding that my pregnant friend group just constantly complains about how fat they're getting. Keep in mind, they aren't getting fat. They're simply pregnant.
All right, wow. I'm going to leave that one now.
Jury's still out, huh?
Wow. I'm just offering that not everyone is just pregnant. Okay, fair. I mean, it's science,
dude. Take a stand. I love it.
That's the hill you're going to die on.
Take a fucking stand.
This isn't a hill to die on.
For far too long. No, I agree.
I'm agreeing with her, but I don't think it's 100% of the time.
Sure.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
fair.
so glad we covered that. That's awesome. Fucking Fridays.
I'd love if my wife were pregnant and then just ballooned, and then I'd be like, this is.
Some guys are really into that.
No, I don't mean it that way. I mean it like,
okay.
Thank you, though. I was like, make sure you say the next sentence quicker. And I didn't get it in quick enough. I just think like, I used to like just have terrible hair and then get a really good haircut. I could never understand how the guy would get his haircut like every 28 days. Like you never look any different your entire life. Like let it go, let it look bad. And then it's a massive improvement. Like you don't want me after a bad day, right? You don't want me after a bad show. You don't want me, if you got me coming off of something bad, look out. Same thing with haircuts. I don't have that option anymore. But yeah, my wife dealing with pregnancy, you know, like I'd be like, okay, I can't wait to get back to work here. Like you look, you know, just I'll ride the waves. I don't want the same all the time. You know, it's not reality.
Yeah.
Okay. That'll probably go over well.
Yep. All right.
So back to the email. On top of the fat comments that are always, they're always discussing how horrible it is being pregnant. And it started to make me spiral when I was having a very blissful pregnancy before I told them. Their negativity is an energy drain, and I don't know how to address the situation to get them to chill out. I know none of you have been pregnant. Noted. But I love life advice and would love to hear your best guesses on how to handle the situation. Well, Steve, we're going to start with you.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have intimate knowledge of a pregnant person. Yeah, Matt. Matt, man.
Fake.
How
Yeah,
big did
I'm
she
not
get?
gonna.
Fake.
How big she get? You know what's funny is actually, I look back and in real time, I was like, oh, you like look the same. Like you don't look any different to me. And I've said this to her. So this isn't like I'm not saying anything out of turn here. And I was like, well, I actually didn't realize how big you actually did get. And she's back to sort of her like normal size now. Well, it was shitty for my wife because she had like right basically the lead up. Our daughter was born in October. We had 4 weddings in September and early October.
come on.
2 of them I was in, so there's a million pictures of her too, and she looks great. But like I didn't really notice until
Glowing.
like now that she's kind of like gone back to sort of her pre-pregnant somewhat of her pre-pregnancy side, and she's done a great job of working out. So I'll add that too, just for anyone who wants to knock me. So man, it's tough because I do think that she would say a lot of things about like, oh, like this sucks or that sucks. And I kind of thought she was doing a great job. So I was sort of like oblivious to a lot of this stuff most of the time. She didn't have any like weird cravings. And I think she was really uncomfortable at the end. And I think she definitely had friends who got in her head a little bit, but she had a relatively like straightforward pregnancy, I think, which was good. But her friends definitely got in her head about that stuff. So I would say just because your friends are talking about this stuff, again, from a non-pregnant person or someone who has never been pregnant, it is the fact that all pregnancies are different. Like some people just have worse morning sickness. Some people get bigger. Some people show earlier than they show later. Like just because your friends are having a shitty time and you've had a good time so far doesn't mean that your pregnancy is all of a sudden going to turn shitty. So I also think that like people just like to complain too. This isn't a pregnancy thing. They just like to
Totally.
when you're
Absolutely.
doing something,
Right.
when you're going through something in life, like you like to talk about it. Like if you're trying to, I don't know, do anything, you want people to know that you're going through this situation. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't let it. I know why it's bogging you down, but you can still have a really great pregnancy and everything can be totally fine, even though people around you are acting like, the sky is falling.
Yeah, on the complaining thing. Every time I turn my ankle, dudes know about it. I'll tell you that.
You do a little
I'm
limp.
dealing with some heavy
Yep.
shit right now. So
You make sure the tape is showing. You're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I got the tape. Oh man, yeah.
do a little rotation. Yeah.
I think
God, it's
NBA
really
players do
stiffening
that.
up.
Like LeBron does that. Like if he gets hurt, like and he throws himself on the ground and acts like he just got punched in the face, like sucker punched in the face. Like he wants people to know that he's like kind of a warrior and I'm working through this. Like look at me, I got
that eye
hurt.
a lot.
And
Blinking that eye.
So that's just like that's human nature.
I guess the one thing I would say is like, is your area like have like a group?
I can't believe you compared pregnant women to LeBron, but yeah, keep going.
This is great. Fucking Fridays. Is there like, could you like Tony Soprano?
I think I said
Dr.
the second least controversial thing.
Could you like Tony Soprano, Dr. Melfi this? Like go someplace and like, is there like positive mom someplace?
She doesn't need to do that. She's the one that has a level head. Like you deserve credit. The emailer here deserves credit.
Like,
all right.
I'm like, these people are getting in my head. The only people I have to talk about this with are bitching constantly. I'm sorry if I was offensive, but I don't know. I think it's okay to say
you
bitching
should feel
now,
better.
right?
No, you should feel better that you're like, hey, I don't feel like any of this stuff. Now, look,
so what's the advice then?
I say you pivot where you're like, I had an awesome day. Just counter their negativity with your positivity, and it could be your own little game. Because
I don't think
so. Rudy said something I doubt it's going to be very popular with the female listeners, but there's like this because this is the most unchecked thing ever. You can't ever say anything. Like if your wife's like,
yes,
I'm going through this, and then you're like, not today. Like I can't.
We get
so,
it.
I can't hear it again.
Yeah, we still got 6 months to go. All right, I don't want to hear about it. You can't ever do that. I mean, you can if you're an asshole, but you're probably thinking it. But that's one of those deals. You're just like you just can't actually say that when your wife is complaining about dealing with the pregnancy stuff. But the other thing that Rudy said, like, yeah, like look, I've been around enough people that have been pregnant, and it's all over the map. It is all over the map. So maybe you're the lucky one out of that group. So even though this is driving you crazy, like I had one friend, she was pregnant, twins, and she was laughing. She goes, this is so much easier than I thought it was going to be. And I was like, how's it going? She's like, they sleep all the time. She's like, everybody bitches about their situation, being pregnant, giving birth. And then the same deal. And she's like, I feel so guilty because I'm not feeling any of the things that they're feeling. This couldn't be easier. Now, granted, it brings its own challenges actually raising a kid and all that stuff. But in those initial phases, she was the one that didn't want to tell everybody like how great it was going because she felt guilty because of all the complaints. It's kind of like what Cerruti was saying, right?
Yeah, I think I do think there's obviously there's a correlation between like that and having kids. Like, right, I think there are a lot of people that like to complain about how difficult their life is now that they have kids, and I think some people's lives are really difficult. Like I'm in a sort of like a fortunate position where I work at home, right? So it's kind of like I have a pretty flexible schedule, but also like our daughter sleeps really well and she doesn't really complain a ton. And I'm sure there are kids, parents out there like, cool, my kid cries all the time and hasn't slept since he was born or she was born. And that's definitely true. And I think the people that are going through that shit like to talk about how shitty their life is and how terrible it is and how lack of sleep I get. Doesn't mean it's not real, but it also doesn't mean that it's going to ruin my day. Like I'm good. So I think that's kind of the attitude that you have to take is, I'm sure it gets annoying listening to people complain about this stuff all the time, but also know that, hey, like this isn't how I'm dealing with it. So this is awesome. Like if anything, like you're relatively speaking, like you're in a way better position. And that should make you feel better about it.
Yeah. So I don't know that we came up with any advice other than, one of the things I always like doing is just embrace the hell out of it. Be like, oh, I felt awesome today. Slept all day. Great. I'm going to get a run in later. Shirt still fits. That's terrible. Oh, that's awful. Yeah. Like just keep stacking your W's. Yeah. But apparently you feel like you have to you can't just leave the thread. I mean, of course you could always just stop paying attention to it. You could just slide out of the thread every now and then. But that probably isn't a realistic thing.
I think you just use it to realize how good you have it, at least right now. Be like, oh man, I could be a huge Debbie Downer and annoying everybody. And I actually could genuinely be going through shit where I just feel like crap, but I don't. So it's kind of like a good thing, a thing of like, hey, I actually have it pretty good.
Pregnant yoga near me. They actually call it prenatal yoga, but I don't know. You guys just shout all over my advice and I kind of was going somewhere. It's like, could you just find like positive moms, like maybe yoga? Maybe they go do something and like those people probably aren't like, today
she's
sucks.
Not going to leave her friend group.
No, I'm saying, could you also find a thing like to balance it out where you go once a week for 45 minutes and you be around a bunch of happy mom-to-bees?
Maybe she brings them. Maybe there's a promo code.
Maybe. Groupon. Check it out.
All right. That probably isn't going to be everybody's favorite we've ever done. Thanks to Kyle. Thanks to Steve. Thanks to Oregon. Ryen Russillo Podcast. Ringers Podcast.